It is no secret that I love making gowns. I of course have nowhere to wear them to as of right now. But when I see a beautiful fabric at the fabric store, I have to, make a gown out of it. I've been wanting one of these Titanic era evening gowns for a long time. Of course, the one from the movie is iconic, and I wanted to do something similar. I didn't want to replicate it exactly as it is in the movie, and of course the color of the fabric that I found is different. So I wanted to do something that would be a little bit more creative and a little bit more fun for me. After looking at numerous fashion plates and extant garments, I decided to sketch something that would suit me well. It is hard to capture how beautiful the fabric actually is, and even harder to paint all the beautiful golden sparkly sequins that are on the fabric. I saw several examples of gowns that were as sparkly as I wanted mine to be, so I did not feel bad about buying this extremely modern, probably polyester fabric. This would be a good point to let you know that I am not a professional and I do not know what I'm doing. So take the historical element of this with a grain of salt. I woke up really early the next morning, not purposefully so, though I am a morning person, so it was the perfect time for me to get started on this gown. After I made some tea, of course, it was quite cold. I always start out by sketching the pattern shapes I think I'll need because I do not use commercial patterns. I did get distracted on my phone for a bit. It was always cheaper for me to make my own patterns, and then the habit just stuck. I looked through my old patterns to see if there was something that I could use as a base. I traced the old pattern and made some modifications as needed. After cutting out the pattern pieces, it was time to lay out the fabric. I do not have a sewing table, so on the floor it went. Not before I stopped to admire how beautifully the light catches in the golden speckles of the fabric. I marked out everything with chalk and then cut out the pieces. Since the fabric is very slippery, I did some basting stitches to stop the fabric from moving as I sew. But by this time, the early morning had relented into mid-morning and I had other things to do, so it will have to wait till tomorrow. I often listen to the Narnia soundtrack because it is so nostalgic for me. And given that it is winter, it made sense to do that again. We don't get any snow here where I currently live, but it is cold enough for me to enjoy a nice cup of tea or a hot chocolate. I restored this 1930s sewing machine in a previous video, and I've been using it ever since for all my historical projects. 1930s is of course not the exact year we're aiming for, but it is close enough. Besides, I will take any excuse to use this marvelous machine. I was lucky enough to find some matching thread without having to go to the market to get some more. It was not an exact match, but then again, good enough is good enough. After winding the bobbin, I threaded the machine and then I was ready to sew. I still had more fabric to cut, which I had put off to the last minute because I was too scared to cut into this very limited amount of sparkly fabric. And as you'll see later, I barely had enough to make this gown. And my room is now forever covered in golden specks. The skirt base was done, and then I ran into some problems. The overlay was not sitting properly because I did not cut enough fabric for it to drape nicely. And after a lot of problem solving and piecing off camera, I was finally finished with the gown, and all I had left were some teeny tiny scraps. And without further ado, here's the reveal. Maybe someday I'll actually get to wear this to a fancy dinner. But for now, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time for more shenanigans and sewing adventures.